It began as a breathless crawl through darkness, deep in the mountains of Guerrero, Mexico, where the air grows thin and silence presses in like stone. High above sea level, nestled 7,800 feet in the sky, lies a cave with a name spoken in hushed reverence by those who know it. Tlayococ, the Cave of Badgers. To the untrained eye, it's an empty rock cavity lined with bat guano and fed by dripping water. But in September 2023, this cavern became the unlikely stage for one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries in recent memory. Speleologist Katia Pavlova, a cave explorer with a hunger for the unknown, and local guide Adrian Beltran Dimas ventured into Tlayococ, not expecting to make history. They certainly didn't expect to find something that had lain untouched for centuries. Pavlova recalls the moment it happened. "I looked in, and it seemed like the cave continued. You had to hold your breath and dive a little to get through," she said in a translated statement. "That's when we discovered the 2 rings around the stalagmites. To reach that hidden chamber, they had to wade into a passage where the ceiling pressed down to just 6 inches above the water's surface. The water was icy. The ceiling was claustrophobically low. Most would have turned back. But Pavlova forged ahead, pulling herself through the narrow gap first, then signaling Beltran to follow. And when they emerged on the other side, they didn't find rocks. They found relics. There, in the stillness of the cave's heart, lay 4 shell bracelets, 2 full stone discs, 6 fragments, a massive decorated snail shell, and a solitary piece of charred wood, all deliberately arranged. Most hauntingly, the bracelets had been looped over smooth, rounded stalagmites, eerily phallic in form. The space smelled of limestone and moisture. The air was heavy with the kind of silence that feels sacred. In the flicker of their headlamps, the artifacts glowed with the dull sheen of age, untouched, undisturbed, and utterly mysterious. At first glance, the arrangement may have seemed incidental, like the lost effects of an early traveler or a forgotten ceremonial gesture. But to trained eyes, these weren't just objects. They were ritual instruments, meticulously positioned, imbued with meaning, echoing something deeply spiritual. Realizing the potential significance of their find, Pavlova and Beltran reached out to Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH. By March 2024, a full archaeological team had arrived on site. Among them was ENR archaeologist Miguel Perez Negrete, who would go on to interpret the find not as random clutter, but as a carefully curated ritual deposit. Based on the style of the objects and their arrangement, Perez believes the site was used for fertility rituals over 500 years ago, likely by the Tlacotepehua, a little-known pre-Hispanic culture that once inhabited this mountainous region of southern Mexico. But why here? Why deep inside a cave that takes breath and bravery to reach? Because for Mesoamerican cultures, caves were far more than geological formations. They were sacred portals. To the ancient peoples of this land, caves represented the womb of the earth, the gateway to the underworld, the place where life and death touched fingertips. They were not just dark spaces, they were cosmic theaters. For pre-Hispanic cultures, caves were sacred places associated with the underworld and considered the womb of the earth, said Perez. In myth and in practice, caves were where heroes were born, where ancestors whispered through shadows, and where gods left signs. The earth wasn't something to conquer, it was something to speak with, to enter, to understand. In that worldview, Tlayococ wasn't a mere cave, it was alive. And in Tlayococ, that symbolism is rendered vividly in stone. Those stalagmites weren't just random. Their shape and placement suggest deliberate use in fertility rites. The bracelets looped around them may have served as offerings, acts of reverence for the gods of life, renewal, and birth. Fertility, both human and agricultural, was central to ancient Mesoamerican life. Without rain, without crops, without children, a village withered. So fertility rites weren't minor rituals, they were matters of survival. These caves and the spirits they were believed to house could mean the difference between bounty and famine. The symbolism runs even deeper. Some of the bracelets were etched with Zoniquili, an S-shaped motif linked to Venus, a planet central to Mesoamerican cosmology and timekeeping. Venus was a dual-natured celestial body, both a morning and evening star, closely tied to themes of death and rebirth. To the ancient Nahua peoples, including the Aztecs and Tlacotepehua, Venus marked cycles of time, moments of ritual significance, and omens of divine will. Another bracelet bears the profile of a human-like figure, which Perez believes could represent Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity, god of wind, learning, and creation. Quetzalcoatl was said to have descended into the underworld to gather the bones of previous generations, only to create humanity anew. What better god to invoke in a cave so symbolic of the Earth's womb? These weren't decorations. They were sacred messages, signals to the divine, crafted with care, left behind like prayers cast into stone. The artifacts, Perez explains, date back to the post-classic period of Mesoamerican history, between 950 and 1521 AD, just before the arrival of the Spanish and the collapse of many indigenous cultures. Their survival is a miracle of conditions. The cave's steady humidity and isolation preserved them better than any museum vault could. It's very likely that because they were found in a close environment where humidity is fairly stable, the objects were able to survive for so many centuries, Perez noted. They survived fires, floods, earthquakes, colonization, and conquest. They endured the fall of empires and the rewriting of histories. They outlived their makers, their languages, their descendants. And now, 500 years later, they speak again. Who were these people? Why did they choose this cave? What did they believe would happen when they laid those bracelets on the stone? We may never know for certain. The Tlacotepehua culture remains one of the least documented civilizations of pre-Hispanic Mexico. They left behind few traces, no grand pyramids, no sprawling cities. But in this one cave they left meaning etched into the side of a snail shell, meaning wrapped around the cold curve of a stalagmite. Today, archaeologists face a delicate task. Every object from Tlaococ is being carefully catalogued, digitally modeled, and subjected to non-invasive analysis. Experts are scanning microscopic wear patterns on the shells, performing chemical analysis on the carbonized wood, and reconstructing the original arrangement in virtual space. The team hopes that even the placement of each piece might hold answers. Tlaococ is also being digitally mapped, photographed in 3D, and possibly prepared for further exploration, though the danger of the tight passage means few may ever return to the heart of the cave. If the site is reopened, it could offer insight into ritual movement, how practitioners crawled, swam, or wept their way into the sacred zone. But the implications stretch far beyond the mountain. Tlaococ forces us to re-examine the spaces we take for granted. The caves we assume are empty, the relics mistaken for trash, the symbols that still linger beneath our feet. It's a reminder that the past is not gone. It's simply waiting to be rediscovered, waiting to be retold. Today, that meaning is being unearthed, interpreted, and preserved, not just by archaeologists, but by all of us. Because discoveries like this are not just about the past. They challenge us to rethink how much we still don't know about the cultures that once shaped the Americas, and how many more secrets might still lie hidden beneath the ground, waiting for the right moment or the right spelunker to bring them to light. Tlaococ has spoken, and its voice echoes across time with a message carved into bone, shell, and stone. Even in darkness, memory endures. So the next time you hear about a forgotten cave in a faraway mountain, ask yourself, is it really empty? Or is it just waiting to be heard? Subscribe to hear those stories before they're swallowed again by silence.